Hello and welcome to Media Mondays. I'm your host, the Zombie Creeper, and today I'll be reviewing a video game. What video game? Well, read the description. We've been over this. Anyways, let's just get right into it. City Skylines is a city-building kinda sandbox game released on March 10th, 2015. It was developed by the Finnish developing group Colossal Order and published by the Swedish company Paradox Interactive, the same company that created Hoi 4, EU4, CK3, and is creating Victoria 3, hopefully. The game started development essentially as a competitor to the massively popular SimCity. The game received praise from critics when it was released. In fact, it's actually Paradox's best-selling title, beating out games like Prison Architect and the aforementioned Crusader Kings 3. Hoi 4 was 5th, what the fuck? In 2017, ports for the Xbox One and PS4 were released, and a Nintendo Switch port in 2018. The game has had an extensive modding community, with people creating their own buildings, maps, and props for others to download. There are also many tool mods like Find It, Procedural Objects, and various Anarchy mods. As of writing, the game has a total of 13 DLCs for purchase. There are also many creator packs for sale, which add different buildings and whatnot. If I may recommend one, get the Bridges and Piers one. The bridges are really nice. The player can choose various terrains to kick off their city and starts with a 1.44 square mile plot of land off a highway. You can build roads, utilities, buildings, stores, factories, houses, electricity towers, etc., etc. And if your city is good enough, you'll start getting people moving in. Now these troglodytes start asking for things like running water and electricity. And you have to build pumping stations, waste stations, and power generators, and then connect those via pipes and power lines to the houses. Eventually, if you aren't trash at the game, you can build quite a bustling community, if you have the in-game budget. However, if you're like me and drew cities on the driveway with chalk when you were 8, then you might want to enable the quote-unquote cheats before starting a game, and essentially trigger sandbox mode. You have all buildings unlocked automatically and infinite money. This is optimal for building the best city you can, and let me tell you, with some mods and enough time and computer RAM, there are some marvelous cities that I would say even rival real-world cities. You can also purchase more land and expand your working space. You can even manipulate the props that are auto-placed and screw with them till your heart's content. Kinda weird that this was published by the same company that let you make Joseph Stalin the Russian Tsar while you invade Tanutuva with artillery only. This game's graphics are amazing. The shading is on point and the night is beautiful if you have lights. And the water looks pretty realistic. The roads, while not perfect, do a good job at, well, also looking legit. The amount of free range you have in sandbox mode is truly astonishing, and I was blown away by how much there is when I first loaded up the game. But, speaking of that, we have to talk about the draws. And yeah, this is gonna sound like whining, but bear with me. My PC isn't super good, and it's on our last legs, but every other game on there runs fairly smoothly. Hoi 4 loads painfully slow, but runs fine. Age of History 2 zips around, and the Political Machine 2020 gets what it needs to get done. The only problem is City Skylines. While the game itself runs fairly okay, the loading is the worst. So I create a city and set up the terrain, and then I load up the new game. Out of 15 attempts to load up a new game, only one will actually load. The rest will just buffer and eventually crash. This is fairly annoying considering the time it takes to get to the kiss of death. Sure, validating the files before a playthrough helps, but it's not enough sometimes. I know, this is a personal gripe, but I picked this game out of a few others we won't mention for sanity's sake, and I gotta talk about it. Still, I highly recommend you pick up the game yourself. It's still a fantastic game when it loads. So yeah, be sure to never use the windmills, drink your water, and stop falling over.